Hello everyone, long time no see. I haven't posted a YouTube video in a very long time, and I'm going to share why in this video. But with November being a very special month in my life, not only because it's my wedding anniversary, but also because it's National Epilepsy Awareness Month, I wanted to make a sit-down video to acknowledge that and to also share that I have epilepsy. I just received my diagnosis on October 30th, and on October 10th my life changed drastically. Before I get into all the nitty-gritty details of what led up to my diagnosis, I really want to share my motivation for making this video. It's not to get attention for myself or to have people feel sorry for me in any way, shape, or form, but I do feel like there is a stigma that comes with the diagnosis of epilepsy, and I really do want to do a small part of contributing to fighting that stigma. And also, I feel like I get into a conversation almost every time I go into public, whether it's grocery shopping or running an errand of some sort, for the past few years at least, about how the world seems to be declining morally as far as manners and kindness towards other people is concerned. It seems like it's so rare these days to have a public outing without someone getting impatient that you are taking too long in line or not paying for your groceries quickly enough. And I know that we all know this in the back of our heads, but I want to be another reminder that none of us truly know what anyone is going through behind closed doors or behind the scenes. And I want all of us to do a better job of trying to bring that to the forefront of our minds, because we truly don't know what people are going through. We only know what people choose to share or put out there. And I just wish that there was more patience and grace and kindness and compassion in the world than what there actually is. I would also like to add that I'm making this video because when I first got my diagnosis, I was on the internet like crazy trying to find other people that I could relate to that had the diagnosis of epilepsy. And although I found several videos of neurologists educating people about epilepsy and symptoms and side effects of medication, I did not find very many people on social media who were talking about their diagnosis. And for that reason, I really want to extend a thank you to Kara and Nate for being so open about Kara's diagnosis of epilepsy, because when I watched their video, it made me feel so much less alone. And I realized that there is a vulnerability that comes with getting online and sharing any diagnosis regardless of what it is. And it was also very hard and disappointing to struggle to find videos of other people talking about this, which made me feel really sad, honestly. So thank you, Kara, for being open about your diagnosis. So with that being said, I'm going to start with October 10th, when I had a seizure, and take you from October 10th up to today, and then I'm going to backpedal and explain how everything has culminated into this diagnosis. So to start, October 10th, 4:30 a.m. is when my husband noticed that I was making funny noises. He was in another room and it was loud enough to get his attention. So he came in. I was unconscious, making funny noises. I'm going to include a very small portion of the clip right here in the video, just so you can see a little glimpse of what happened.
What's the matter? Hey, what's the matter?
He said that spit was coming out of my mouth, blood, and he tried to turn me on my side, and I just was completely unaware and not conscious at all. And as I've watched the video through in its entirety, I've realized that it took me like an hour to be able to even verbally respond to him. And even then, I was slurring my words. When I did come back to myself, I was very confused. He said that I was like completely drenched in sweat, and I had a terrible headache after. I was very fatigued, and I just felt absolutely horrible. That led to an ER trip. My mom was kind enough to come and keep the kids so that I could go to the ER. They ran a CT scan and didn't find anything of major significance, so we got sent home, and I pretty much slept the rest of the day because I was absolutely exhausted. Shortly after that, I had a trip to primary care, who confirmed with the video that I did have a seizure, and they wanted me to get in to a neurologist as quickly as possible, and they wanted me to get an MRI scan done immediately. So they scheduled the MRI, and I found a neurologist that had amazing ratings and reviews close by, but when I called them, they made it sound like it would be 6 to 8 months before this doctor could even see me or talk to me. I remember feeling absolutely horrible for the first 8 days after the seizure, and I was reaching out to this neurologist's office asking what I should do. And in the process of that, I had an idea of sending the neurologist a video clip of the seizure, because when I named the idea, they said that it would be really beneficial for him to be able to see it, and the more information the better whenever I was able to get my first appointment. And ultimately sending the video is what got me in much more quickly. I was literally in his office 20 days after I had the seizure, which is unusual. But the first appointment, he said that it was one of the worst seizures he had ever seen in his entire career. He wanted me to start medication that very night. And he said the reason that he worked me in was because when he saw the video clip, he knew that I needed help, and I needed help as quickly as possible. So I'm leaving the neurologist. I did not think I would be able to see a neurologist for several months, but he was very kind to work me in when I sent him a video of a seizure that I had, and it's confirmed that I definitely have epilepsy. So I'm very happy to have an answer, because this has been going on for so many years, and I'm so happy to have a doctor that can look at a video and ask me questions and know exactly what is going on with me. So it's obviously not fun to have epilepsy, but I'm grateful that I have an answer about what's going on. So as all of this has played out little by little, you know, I've struggled to kind of begin to feel like myself again. It's been a very long, I'm trying to think of the right word. It's been a very long journey up to this point, and this has culminated over years. I've had to stop and restart this video several times because of the brain fog and sort of feeling like I'm dizzy and floating, and I'm really struggling to come up with the right words to describe this. Part of that just comes with the diagnosis of epilepsy. It's very, very common to feel like you have dementia, or that you can't think of the right words, or that you are confused and have memory problems. But I'm also in the process of coming off of one medication that had really, really bad side effects that my neurologist did not want me to live with. And at the same time, I'm trying to increase the dose slowly of a new medication that they want me to try. So I am struggling with coming up with the right words and staying on track in this video. So please have grace on me as I post this, because it has been very hard to remember details and tell it in chronological order. The neurologist was so taken aback, I think, by the video that he would like to use it for his students, and he said that I want all of my students to be able to see a video like that and be able to recognize right off the bat that that is epilepsy with no question. I think what took me back so much was within a minute or two of him walking into the exam room, he immediately told me I had epilepsy. He was very confident in making that diagnosis, and I was under the impression that it would take lots of tests to come up with that diagnosis, and it really didn't. To be diagnosed with epilepsy, you only have to have 2 seizures more than 24 hours apart, and that is enough to make a diagnosis. So I want to backpedal a little bit to, I guess it was 6 or 7 years ago when I had my second son, and knowing that my health was declining, I knew something wasn't right, but I could not tell you exactly what it was. I was in the throes of postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, lots of other postpartum issues that I was trying to recover from, you know, hormonally. But I knew that there was something not right, only because of how terrible I was feeling. And as the years have ticked on, I've noticed that I have a lot of headaches. I have a lot of dizzy spells. For years, I have not felt well. I felt fatigued. But anytime I would bring this up to doctors, I would get dismissed. I would be told, well, you're a homeschooling mother. You're under a lot of stress. you are struggling with sleep deprivation. Try to eliminate stress as much as possible and you'll feel better. And that felt very unhelpful because there are day-to-day stresses that none of us can get rid of, but mine just felt heavier for some reason, which led to more diagnosis in terms of mental health diagnoses, which explained some of what I was going through, but it definitely didn't explain it all. And I'm so grateful that I had this seizure and that it was captured on camera on October the 10th, because without it, I think I would still be in doctor's offices trying to figure out why I had been feeling like trash for years and probably being dismissed, as unfortunate as that is to say.
I feel like a child, like the night before Christmas morning. That's how it feels right now. And it's weird to, I think it sounds weird for me to say it that way, like, yay, I'm so excited. But I'm excited to have an answer after 10 years. I'm excited to have someone who knows what they're talking about after 10 years. I'm excited to know kind of what's going on. Although it's not like a daily thing. I could be having seizures more often than we think. But I just feel excited to go tell everybody. I don't know why. Why do I feel so excited?
Relief, maybe.
Relief? Maybe. I mean, 10 years is a long time to not have a diagnosis.
Oh, yeah.
But it kind of makes me feel like I think what it is, it makes me feel like I have an explanation for why I felt like garbage for so many years.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of normal to feel like garbage or to not feel right when you have epilepsy, like to a certain degree. So it feels like an explanation and I don't feel crazy anymore. I guess that's why I feel excited. Okay, I'm gonna tell this to my mom and to myself. I remember, I won't film you, you don't be on camera. I'll just film myself. Unless you want to be on camera. Are you ashamed? When I was doing a lot of research before I had my neurology appointment, I was like trying to diagnose myself, which I know you're not supposed to do, but I was trying to figure out, was this a temporal lobe? Was it frontal? You know, where did this originate in the brain? Because I was watching videos that would show seizures that started in this lobe or that lobe or where it originated or whatever. And that was like the one answer that I couldn't really procure for myself because I can't find an evidence for both temporal lobe and frontal lobe. And then to have him confirm it was both is very validating because I kind of thought that it had to be one or the other and it had to be a certain type, and apparently that's not the case. And you can have multiple kinds of seizures as well. But I'm just so grateful that I got an answer so quickly because typically it takes months and months and months to get into a neurologist. And I sent him the video and he said, when I saw the video, I knew that I needed to see you as quickly as possible because he said you had one of the absolute worst seizures that I've ever seen.
The other part of the story that I really want to share is I do think that I've had epilepsy for much longer than just October the 10th. But it's taken years to connect the dots and really figure it out. The first time that I had a seizure that someone witnessed was when my firstborn son was about a month old. And I was sitting at my grandmother's house visiting her, and I had just had a very upsetting conversation, and I started to have a seizure. And at the time when I saw a neurologist for it, they wanted to put me on medication, but I wondered if it was maybe like an emotional reaction to being under severe stress, and that was why we didn't go on medication back then, because the neurologist acknowledged that that could have been the cause. And even years before that, I was traveling a lot. I was in an extremely abusive marriage and under tremendous stress, poverty, terrible circumstances. And as I was traveling to go to a training for a job, I actually had a car crash that totaled my car, destroyed a guardrail. I ended up in the ER, and I was diagnosed with a mild concussion, and I still pushed myself to move forward with the training. And when I got to the training days later, the roommate that I was sharing a hotel room with thought that she witnessed me have another seizure, but I didn't get treated for it at the time. So this has really been building up over years, and the last seizure that I had, it was like the perfect storm that had all culminated into this seizure that I caught on camera, because the week leading up to this, I was under a lot of emotional stress and physical stress. I had been pushing my body beyond its limits, and our family was adjusting to a big life change with my husband working a second job. So it sort of created this perfect storm that led to me having the seizure that I had recently. So as I have been learning about this slowly, because I've only known that I have epilepsy officially for I don't know, maybe less than a month now, 3 weeks to a month. I've been doing a lot of research and asking questions to my neurologist, and it turns out, and I didn't know this, but apparently you can have lots of different types of seizures with the diagnosis of epilepsy. And the last several months of my life, I've been noticing that when we would go out to the grocery store, go shopping, even sometimes when I would drive, I would have these dizzy spells come over me, and they would last for about a minute long. But I would be in the grocery store, have to stop walking, hold on to a fixture or a shelf. My husband, one of my oldest kid, I would have to hold on to something to steady myself until it would pass. And I never could come up with a pattern to this, but it just happened more and more frequently as time has gone on. And my neurologist now thinks that that was probably seizures as well. So now I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to find the right medication to treat this, because the first MRI that I had didn't show anything significant, but it was an MRI without contrast. The neurologist just ordered an MRI with contrast, and it didn't show anything of extreme significance, but it did show some asymmetry in my medial temporal lobe, which can be a marker for epilepsy. So that does feel very validating, and like that could be a sign of the diagnosis. Although I don't think we need it for the diagnosis, it's another piece of evidence towards it. And I just had an EEG. I don't have the results yet, and I really wanted to have a full picture before I filmed this, but I also didn't want to let the month of November pass without acknowledging that it is National Epilepsy Awareness Month. I wanted to put out there what I know for the time being. And I wish so much that I did have all the answers and like a specific diagnosis for my epilepsy. At this point, we are thinking it could be temporal lobe, but we don't know that for sure. As I'm editing this video, I feel pretty confident that there are going to be things that come up in my mind that I wish I had included or that I forgot. But I'm also struggling with the medication adjustment, and my neurologist did tell me at my first appointment that that was such a bad seizure that it could easily take me months to start feeling like myself again. So I still am in the postictal state of recovery from this seizure, and I'm just not as sharp as I would like to be. So I'm sure there are going to be parts and pieces of this that I look back on and think, oh man, I really wish that I put that in the video. But before the month of November is over, I was determined to at least acknowledge my diagnosis of epilepsy and to contribute to lessening the stigma, the shame, and mostly the silence behind it, because it feels like there are so many people who do have this diagnosis but do not talk about it. And I want to make other people feel more comfortable to talk openly about this diagnosis so that they know they're not alone. It's helped me feel less alone, and I feel like things are so much, heavy things in our life are so much easier to shoulder and carry when we do not have to carry them alone. It's amazing how in 3 weeks your life can change so drastically. I am constantly making sure that I have my medication ready, because you cannot just go off of these medications cold turkey. That can trigger seizures. So I have reminders on my phone. My calendar is full of making sure that I'm taking the right dose of the right medication at the right time. I have to always have my rescue medication with me in the event that I did have a seizure that could be life-threatening. In my case, it would be a seizure of 4 minutes or longer. My neurologist did acknowledge that 5 minutes is typically what they say, but he said if I'm having a seizure that's 4 minutes long, he wants me to, have whoever is with me administer the rescue medication. He doesn't think it's worth waiting 5 minutes for. In my state, you cannot drive for at least 6 months from your previous seizure. So in a short time, my life has changed drastically, and it's really tough. It's such a huge change, and the best way that I know how to process my emotions and make peace with difficult things in my life is to talk about them. I would like to wish everyone a very happy National Epilepsy Awareness Month. I want everyone else who has epilepsy to know, or for those of you who are yet to get a diagnosis but you know that something is not right, to continue to advocate for yourself. Do not give up. My diagnosis was at least 15 years in the making, maybe longer. We just know 15 years is when we started to see convulsive seizures. I suspect that I've probably had this much longer than 15 years. So do not give up. Continue to advocate for yourself. And I want to encourage you that it is not the end of the world to get an epilepsy diagnosis. I know that I haven't had it long enough to really talk about it and make a statement like that, but I do believe that God uses the hardest things in our life to accomplish good and to accomplish His purpose. And I know that we can all still live fulfilling lives with epilepsy.